The morning sun had barely peeked through the clouds when Maya wiped down the tables at the Lucky Star Diner for what she thought would be another ordinary day. At 32, she had spent the last 8 years serving coffee and pancakes to truckers and early morning commuters in this small-town establishment. The worn-out soles of her shoes and the slight tremor in her hands from carrying heavy plates told the story of her dedication. That particular Wednesday seemed different somehow. The usual morning rush had dwindled, and the diner was unusually quiet. Maya's thoughts drifted to her daughter's upcoming school fees and the stack of unpaid medical bills sitting on her kitchen counter. Being a single mother hadn't been easy, but she had always managed to keep her head above water, until now. The bell above the door chimed softly, pulling her from her thoughts. A man in a slightly wrinkled suit walked in, his eyes fixed on his phone. There was something different about him, not in his appearance, which was rather ordinary, but in the way he carried himself. He chose the corner booth, away from the windows, and Maya noticed his expensive watch catching the morning light as he settled in. When she approached his table, notepad in hand, he looked up with tired eyes and a gentle smile. "Just coffee, please," he said, his voice carrying a hint of exhaustion. Maya nodded, noting how his suit, though well-tailored, seemed lived in, as if he'd been wearing it for days. As she served his coffee, she couldn't help but notice the spreadsheet spread across his table, filled with numbers that made her head spin. He thanked her quietly, then returned to his work, his forehead creased with worry. Something in his demeanor reminded her of herself, the weight of responsibilities, the silent struggles. An hour passed, and the man remained absorbed in his work, occasionally rubbing his temples. Maya kept his coffee cup filled, each time noticing how he barely touched the pastry she had brought him on the house, because he looked like he needed it. The diner's owner, Mr. Chen, had always been strict about giving away free food, but Maya felt compelled to help in this small way. It was during one of these refills that disaster struck. A young customer rushed past, bumping into Maya's elbow. The coffee pot slipped from her hands, its scalding contents splashing across the businessman's documents and laptop. Time seemed to freeze as coffee seeped into what she realized must be important papers. "I'm so sorry," Maya exclaimed, her hands shaking as she frantically tried to salvage the situation with napkins. She could feel her heart pounding in her chest, knowing this mistake could cost her the job she desperately needed. The man remained surprisingly calm, helping her clean up while assuring her it was okay. Mr. Chen, however, had witnessed the entire incident from behind the counter. His face turned red with anger as he stormed over. "That's it," he shouted, pointing at Maya. "I've warned you about your clumsiness before. You're fired. Get your things and leave." Maya stood there, stunned, as the reality of her situation sank in. The bills, her daughter's education, their rent, everything flashed before her eyes. She fought back tears as she untied her apron with trembling fingers. The businessman watched the scene unfold, his expression unreadable. As Maya walked to the back room to collect her belongings, she could hear the businessman's voice raised in discussion with Mr. Chen, but she was too devastated to pay attention to their words. 8 years of service, ended in an instant. As she gathered her few personal items from her locker, she wondered how she would tell her daughter that mommy had lost her job. The weight of uncertainty pressed heavily on her shoulders as she prepared to walk out of the diner for the last time. Little did she know, this moment, which felt like the end of her world, was actually the beginning of something extraordinary. Sometimes life's biggest blessings come disguised as our worst moments, and Maya's story was about to take an unexpected turn that would change everything. Maya stepped out of the diner into the crisp morning air, clutching her small bag of belongings. The sound of footsteps behind her made her turn around. It was the businessman from the coffee incident, slightly out of breath as if he had rushed to catch up with her. "Please wait," he called out, adjusting his coffee-stained tie. "I couldn't let you leave like this. What happened in there wasn't right." His voice carried genuine concern, something Maya hadn't expected from someone whose work she had just ruined. She wiped away a stray tear, trying to maintain her dignity. "It's kind of you, but there's nothing to be done. Mr. Chen has been looking for a reason to let me go for months. He wants to hire his nephew instead." The truth of her words made her voice crack slightly. The businessman introduced himself as Raj Kumar, a self-made entrepreneur who had started his journey from humble beginnings. "Those documents you spilled coffee on," he said with a slight smile, "they were plans for a new restaurant chain I'm launching. I've been traveling to small diners across the country, studying their operations." Maya listened, confused about why he was sharing this information. The morning sun had grown stronger, and passing cars created a gentle background noise to their conversation. A few regular customers from the diner walked past, giving her sympathetic looks. "I've been watching you this morning," Raj continued, "the way you handle customers, your attention to detail, how you noticed I needed that pastry without me saying anything. That's the kind of intuition you can't teach." He paused, reaching into his jacket pocket. "I have a proposal for you." Maya's heart skipped a beat. Was this really happening? Just minutes ago, her world had been crumbling, and now this stranger was talking about proposals. She thought about her daughter, Lily, waiting at their neighbor's house, probably getting ready for school, unaware that their lives might be about to change. "I need someone to manage my first restaurant," Raj explained, pulling out a business card. "Someone who understands both sides of the business, the customers and the staff. Would you be interested in interviewing for the position?" Maya stared at the card in disbelief. "But I'm just a waitress," she whispered, voicing her deepest insecurity. "I don't have any management experience." Raj shook his head, a knowing look in his eyes. "You've been running this diner's morning shift for years. I saw how you organized the other staff, how you handled the inventory lists behind the counter. That's management experience. Sometimes people are so busy looking down at their feet, they don't realize they've been climbing a mountain." A delivery truck rumbled past, and Maya used that moment to gather her thoughts. This opportunity seemed too good to be true, but something in Raj's earnest expression told her it was genuine. She thought about all the times she had dreamed of doing more, being more, but had been too afraid to take the leap. The job would require training, of course, Raj continued. You'd need to learn about business operations, staff management, and financial planning. But I believe you have the foundation we need. Everything else can be taught. Maya's hands trembled as she finally took the business card. The embossed letters caught the sunlight, Kumar Hospitality Group, transforming dreams into reality. Below it was an address in the business district, a place she usually only passed through on her bus ride to work. I should warn you, Raj added with a serious expression, it won't be easy. The hours will be long, the learning curve steep. But if you're willing to put in the work, this could be the chance you've been waiting for. Maya thought about Lily, about all the times she had told her daughter that education and hard work were the keys to a better life. What kind of example would she be setting if she let fear hold her back now? When would you need an answer? Maya asked, her voice stronger now, determination beginning to replace shock. Take 24 hours, Raj replied, checking his phone. Think it over. Talk to your family. The interview would be tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. My assistant will email you the details if you're interested. He pulled out a notepad, and Maya gave him her contact information. As Raj turned to leave, he paused. Oh, and Maya? That coffee you spilled? It might have ruined some papers, but it probably saved me from making some bad business decisions. I'd been staring at those numbers so long, I couldn't see what was right in front of me, that success in this industry isn't just about profits and spreadsheets. It's about people. Maya watched him walk away, the business card still warm in her hand. The morning sun now felt different on her face, not harsh, but full of promise. As she waited for her bus, she realized that sometimes life's biggest opportunities come disguised as our worst mistakes. On her ride home, Maya's mind raced with possibilities. Could she really do this? The salary Raj had mentioned would solve their financial problems, but more than that, it would give her a chance to show Lily that dreams don't have expiration dates. She thought about all the skills she'd gained over the years, handling difficult customers, managing inventory, training new staff, skills she'd never given herself credit for. By the time she reached her stop, Maya had made her decision. She wouldn't let fear of the unknown hold her back. Tomorrow at 3 p.m., she would take the first step toward changing her life. But first, she had to figure out how to tell Lily that mommy didn't just lose her job, she might have found her calling. Walking into her small apartment that afternoon, Maya found Lily already home from school, working on her homework at their tiny kitchen table. The sight of her 12-year-old daughter, tongue stuck out in concentration as she tackled her math problems, made Maya's heart swell. This was why she needed to take this chance. "Mom? Why are you home so early?" Lily looked up, her eyes widening at the unusual sight of her mother returning before sunset. The confusion on her face quickly turned to concern when she noticed Maya's street clothes instead of her usual uniform. Maya sat down at the table, taking a deep breath. "Something happened at work today, sweetie." She reached out and took Lily's hand, remembering how small it used to be when she'd guide her first steps. "I lost my job at the diner." Lily's face fell, but before she could speak, Maya continued, "But something else happened too. Something that could change everything for us." She pulled out Raj's business card, placing it on the table between them. As she recounted the morning's events, Lily's expressions shifted from worry to disbelief to excitement. "So you could be like a boss?" Lily asked, her eyes shining. "Like Mrs. Rodriguez at my school?" The comparison to their neighbor, who worked as an assistant principal, made Maya smile. "Something like that, yes. But it would mean big changes for us. I'd need to learn a lot, work long hours at first. We'd have to adjust our routine." Maya watched her daughter carefully, remembering how Lily had struggled with changes in the past. To her surprise, Lily jumped up and hugged her tightly. "You always tell me to be brave and try new things," she said into Maya's shoulder. "Now it's your turn, Mom." That evening, after Lily went to bed, Maya sat at their small desk, preparing for the interview. She dug out her old laptop, the one she'd bought secondhand 3 years ago, and began researching restaurant management. The hours ticked by as she took notes, watched videos, and read articles about the industry. Her phone buzzed with an email from Kumar Hospitality Group, containing details about the interview and a brief questionnaire about her experience. Maya's fingers hovered over the keyboard as she considered how to present her years at the diner in a professional light. Around midnight, her neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez knocked softly at the door. "I saw your light on," she said, holding out a cup of tea. "Lily told me about what happened. And about the opportunity." The older woman's warm smile was encouraging. They sat together at the kitchen table, steam rising from their cups. "You know," Mrs. Rodriguez said thoughtfully, 20 years ago, I was a classroom aide who barely spoke English. Someone saw potential in me too. Sometimes we need others to believe in us before we can believe in ourselves." The next morning, Maya stood in front of her closet, staring at her limited options for interview attire. Her hands touched the navy blue dress she'd bought years ago for her sister's wedding. It was simple but elegant, and thankfully still fit. She paired it with her only decent pair of heels, the ones she'd been saving for special occasions. As she got ready, her mind wandered to the regulars at the diner, the morning crew who'd become like family over the years. Old Mr. Patterson, who always ordered the same breakfast and told her stories about his grandchildren. The young college students who'd studied during the quiet hours, nursing cups of coffee she'd quietly refill without charging extra. She'd learned something from each of them about service, about humanity. The interview was scheduled for 3 p.m., but Maya left early, wanting to familiarize herself with the building and its surroundings. The Kumar Hospitality Group office was located in a modern glass building downtown, a world away from the worn comfort of the diner. In the lobby, Maya's reflection in the polished marble floors seemed to belong to someone else, someone more confident, more professional. She thought about everything that had led her here, the early mornings, the late nights, the countless orders memorized, the complaints handled with a smile, the relationships built with customers and coworkers alike. The receptionist directed her to the 14th floor. As the elevator climbed, Maya closed her eyes and thought about Lily's words from the night before. "Now it's your turn, Mom." Her daughter's faith in her gave her strength. The office suite was bright and welcoming, with warm wooden accents softening the modern design. Several people worked at open desks, and the walls featured large photographs of restaurants. From casual diners to upscale establishments. Maya recognized some of them from her research the night before. A young woman approached her with a tablet in hand. "You must be Maya. I'm Priya, Mr. Kumar's assistant. He's looking forward to meeting with you properly." She led Maya to a conference room with a view of the city. "Would you like some water while you wait?" Maya accepted gratefully, her throat suddenly dry. As she sat there, she pulled out her worn notebook, the same one she'd used to track regular customers' preferences at the diner. She'd filled several pages with questions about the position, ideas she'd had while researching, and notes about her own experience that might be relevant. The door opened, and Raj Kumar walked in, accompanied by two other people, a woman in a sharp business suit and a man carrying a laptop. They all smiled warmly, putting Maya slightly at ease. "Maya," Raj began, "thank you for coming. Before we start, I want you to know something. This isn't just a courtesy interview. What I saw yesterday, your work ethic, your intuition, your handling of both the crisis and your dismissal with grace, those qualities are rare and valuable. Today is about figuring out if we're the right fit for each other." Maya straightened in her chair, her nervousness giving way to determination. She might not have an MBA or years of management experience, but she had something else, a lifetime of real-world experience in making people feel valued and cared for. As the interview began, she realized that perhaps that was exactly what Raj was looking for. The interview room felt smaller as Maya began sharing her experiences. The woman in the business suit introduced herself as Neha Patel, head of operations, while the man with the laptop was David Chen, their head of training. As they asked questions, Maya found herself drawing on memories she hadn't realized were valuable. "Tell us about a time you handled a difficult situation at work," Neha asked, her pen poised over a notepad. Maya thought for a moment, then smiled. "Last winter, during a snowstorm, we had a bus full of stranded travelers come in. The kitchen was short-staffed, we were running low on supplies, and everyone was stressed. I reorganized the menu to focus on items we could make quickly with available ingredients, had regular customers share tables with strangers to maximize space, and even called my daughter's babysitter to come help clear tables." She watched their faces as she continued. By the end of the night, those strangers were sharing stories and phone numbers. Some even became regular customers afterward. I learned that sometimes a crisis can become an opportunity to build community. Raj leaned forward, interested. "And how did you handle the financial aspect of such an unexpected situation?" "I kept track of our inventory usage and adjusted prices slightly on certain items to maintain our profit margins without overcharging customers who were already having a rough day. Mr. Chen, my former boss, actually used my system for future emergencies." Maya pulled out her notebook, showing them her neat columns of calculations. The interview continued for nearly 2 hours. They discussed everything from staff motivation techniques to customer service philosophy. Maya found herself growing more confident as she realized how much she actually knew about running a restaurant, even if she'd never held a management title. David Chen pulled up some spreadsheets on the large screen in the conference room. "Let's do a practical exercise," he suggested. "Here's a typical week's worth of data from one of our locations. What patterns do you notice?" Maya studied the numbers, remembering all the times she'd helped Mr. Chen with inventory counts. "The breakfast rush seems inefficient," she noted. "You're staffing based on an 8 a.m. peak, but according to these timestamps, your heaviest traffic actually starts at 7:15. You're probably losing customers who don't want to wait." The three interviewers exchanged glances. Raj smiled knowingly. "That's exactly the kind of insight we need. Someone who understands the business from the ground up." As the interview wound down, Neha handed Maya a thick folder. "This is our training program outline. Take it home, review it. We'd need you to complete this 12-week course before taking on full management responsibilities. During training, you'd receive a stipend and health benefits. Are you willing to make that commitment?" Maya's heart raced as she looked at the folder. 12 weeks of training meant 12 weeks of reduced income, but the mention of health benefits made her think of Lily's asthma medications. Would the training be full-time, she asked, already calculating childcare costs in her head. "Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, David explained. "We believe in work-life balance. The restaurant industry is demanding enough without burning out during training." Walking out of the building an hour later, Maya felt dizzy with possibility. They had asked her to take the weekend to think about their offer, but in her heart, she already knew her answer. The salary they'd mentioned would be more than double what she made at the diner, and the benefits package alone would change their lives. On the bus ride home, Maya called Mrs. Rodriguez to thank her for watching Lily. "How did it go?" her neighbor asked eagerly. "They offered me the position," Maya said, still hardly believing it herself. "But there's a catch, I need to complete a 3-month training program first. Would you be able to help with Lily after school during that time?" "I'll pay you, of course." "Don't be silly," Mrs. Rodriguez replied warmly. "Lily can stay with me as long as needed. You took care of my cat for 2 weeks when I had hip surgery last year. Besides, that girl is like a daughter to me." At home, Maya found Lily waiting anxiously. Her daughter had changed out of her school clothes and was wearing the apron Maya had bought her last Christmas, a miniature version of a chef's apron. She had attempted to make dinner, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches cut into stars using their only cookie cutter. "I wanted to do something special," Lily explained, suddenly seeming shy. "Did they like you, Mom?" Maya pulled her daughter into a tight hug, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. "They offered me the job, baby. But we need to talk about some changes that would happen first." They sat at their small kitchen table, eating star-shaped sandwiches while Maya explained the training program. Lily listened intently, asking surprisingly mature questions about their schedule and finances. When Maya mentioned the health benefits, Lily's eyes lit up. "You mean no more counting inhaler puffs?" That night, after Lily went to bed, Maya sat on their small balcony, looking at the city lights. The folder from Kumar Hospitality Group lay open in her lap, its pages filled with information about restaurant management theories, customer service strategies, and financial planning modules. It was daunting, but exciting. Her phone buzzed with a text from Raj, "Just wanted to check if you had any questions about the offer. My team was very impressed today. We believe you could bring something special to our organization." Maya typed back a careful response, thanking him for the opportunity and confirming she'd give her final answer on Monday. But as she looked at the lights of the city, she knew she'd already made her decision. Sometimes life's biggest blessings come disguised as disasters, and that spilled coffee had turned out to be the best mistake she'd ever made. Monday morning arrived with a mixture of excitement and nerves as Maya stood in front of the Kumar Hospitality Group building for her first day of training. She'd woken up at 4 a.m., old habits die hard, and spent an hour picking out the perfect outfit from her newly purchased business casual wardrobe, bought from a consignment store Mrs. Rodriguez had recommended. The training room on the 11th floor buzzed with activity. 5 other trainees were already there, all from different backgrounds, a former hotel manager, a culinary school graduate, and 3 others with various restaurant experiences. Maya took a seat, trying to quiet the voice in her head that whispered she didn't belong here. David Chen walked in carrying a stack of tablets. "Welcome to your first day of restaurant management training," he announced, distributing the devices. "These will be your primary tools for the next 12 weeks. Everything you need to know is in here, and what isn't, you'll learn from each other." Maya stared at the sleek tablet in her hands, remembering how she used to track orders on a worn notepad. Next to her, a trainee named Aisha smiled encouragingly. "First day jitters," she whispered. "Me too. I was a line cook for 10 years before this." The morning session covered restaurant economics, with terms Maya had never heard before. She scribbled notes frantically, determined not to miss anything. During their lunch break, she found herself sharing a table with Aisha and another trainee named Robert, who had managed a food truck. "I feel so out of my depth," Maya admitted, picking at her salad. "Everyone here seems so qualified." Robert laughed kindly. "Are you kidding? When David mentioned customer flow patterns, you were the only one who could explain why breakfast rush timing varies by neighborhood demographic. That's real experience, not textbook knowledge." The afternoons were dedicated to practical applications. They visited different restaurants within the Kumar Group, observing operations and identifying areas for improvement. Maya found herself noticing things she'd never considered before: the way table layouts affected server efficiency, how kitchen communication impacted food delivery times, the subtle ways lighting influenced dining duration. At home each evening, Lily would eagerly ask about her day while they prepared dinner together. Maya started teaching her daughter some of the business concepts she was learning, simplified into terms a 12-year-old could understand. "It's like your video games," she explained one night, discussing inventory management. "You need to make sure you have enough resources to keep your character going, right?" The weeks began to fly by. Maya's tablet filled with notes, diagrams, and ideas. She started dreaming in spreadsheets and flow charts, but she also found herself growing more confident. The early morning study sessions before class, the late nights reviewing materials after Lily went to bed, it was exhausting but exhilarating. 1 month into the program, Raj visited their training session. "Time for your first real challenge," he announced. "Each of you will spend a day managing one of our smaller locations. You'll handle everything: staff, customers, supplies, problems. We call it the Deep End Day." Maya was assigned to a busy lunch spot in the business district. The moment she walked in, she could sense the staff's skepticism. They saw her as an outsider, someone who hadn't earned her place. But she'd been in their shoes, she knew how it felt. Instead of heading straight to the manager's office, she spent the first hour in the kitchen, learning names, asking about their challenges, and really listening. When the lunch rush hit, she jumped in to help clear tables, demonstrating that no task was beneath her. A crisis hit at 12:30 p.m. The point-of-sale system crashed. While others panicked, Maya remembered the old-school ordering system she'd used during power outages at the diner. She quickly organized a temporary paper system, kept the kitchen informed, and managed customer expectations with free appetizers and honest communication. By the end of the day, she had won over most of the staff. What could have been a disaster turned into a valuable learning experience. Even the head chef, known for his tough standards, gave her a nod of approval. That evening, during the training group's debrief session, David shared the day's performance metrics. Maya's location had maintained 92% customer satisfaction despite the technical issues, and staff feedback was overwhelmingly positive. The most important skill in restaurant management isn't knowing every recipe or memorizing profit margins, Raj commented, looking pleased. It's understanding people, both customers and staff. Maya, you turned a team of skeptics into allies in less than 8 hours. That's what we're looking for. On her bus ride home, Maya received a text from one of the servers at her test location, "Thanks for today. First time I've felt like a manager actually understood what it's like on the floor. Hope you get assigned to our restaurant." Tears welled up in her eyes as she read the message. Just 2 months ago, she had been that server, viewing management as disconnected from daily reality. Now she was bridging that gap, using her experiences to create positive change. At home, she found Lily working on a school project, a presentation about career paths. On her poster board, right next to doctor and teacher, she had added restaurant manager with a picture of a woman in a business suit helping customers. "I told my class about your training," Lily said proudly. "How you're learning to run a whole restaurant. My teacher said it's inspiring how you're showing that it's never too late to chase your dreams." Maya hugged her daughter tight, realizing that this journey was teaching Lily as much as it was teaching her. Every late-night study session, every challenge overcome, every small victory was showing her daughter what was possible with hard work and courage. That night, as Maya reviewed her notes from the day, she came across something Raj had said during their first interview: "Sometimes people are so busy looking down at their feet, they don't realize they've been climbing a mountain." She was definitely climbing, and for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid to look down and see how far she'd come. As the training program entered its final weeks, Maya found herself facing her biggest challenge yet. Raj had announced that their final assessment would involve developing and presenting a complete business plan for a new restaurant concept. This would determine their permanent placement within the Kumar Restaurant Group. "Think of it as your graduation thesis," David explained, distributing the project guidelines. "You'll need to consider everything: location analysis, menu development, staffing plans, financial projections. Most importantly, you need to show us why your restaurant would succeed." Maya sat in her tiny living room late into the night, surrounded by research materials and empty coffee cups. Her tablet displayed dozens of tabs with market research, local demographics, and competitor analyses. But something wasn't clicking. "Mom, you're doing that thing again," Lily said one evening, placing a plate of microwaved leftovers beside her. "You're thinking so hard you forgot to eat dinner." Looking at the plate of reheated pasta, Maya suddenly had an epiphany. All these weeks, she'd been trying to create something fancy, something she thought would impress the executives. But she was ignoring her greatest strength, her understanding of what real people wanted. She thought about her years at the diner, about the conversations she'd had with countless customers. About the elderly couples who came in for affordable but dignified dining experiences. About the young parents juggling work and family, seeking quick but healthy options. About the late-night workers looking for a warm meal and a friendly face. That night, she started fresh. Her concept emerged organically: home plate, a modern take on the traditional diner, combining affordable comfort food with contemporary dietary options. The kind of place where both her old customers and her new corporate colleagues would feel comfortable. During her morning commute, Maya observed the neighborhoods they passed. She noticed an area where old industrial buildings were being converted into offices and apartments. Young professionals mixed with long-time residents, all lacking quality dining options. She'd found her location. In the training room, Aisha noticed her renewed energy. "You seem different today," she commented during their lunch break. "Like you've figured something out." Maya smiled, sharing her concept. "I realized I was trying to be someone I'm not. My strength isn't in creating fancy dining experiences, it's in understanding what makes people feel at home when they eat out." The next few weeks became a whirlwind of preparation. Maya drew on everything she'd learned, both from her training and her years of experience. She developed a menu that combined diner classics with healthy alternatives, planned layouts that would make both families and solo diners feel comfortable, and created staffing schedules that considered work-life balance. The night before the presentations, Mrs. Rodriguez came over with dinner. "You need to rest," she insisted, taking away Maya's tablet. "You know this material better than you think." Lily had made a good luck card, decorated with drawings of plates and happy customers. Presentation day arrived with nervous energy filling the conference room. Maya watched as her fellow trainees presented their concepts: an upscale sushi restaurant, a farm-to-table cafe, a Mediterranean fusion bistro. Each idea was polished and professional. When her turn came, Maya took a deep breath and thought of Lily's card. She began not with market research or financial projections, but with a story. 3 years ago, a woman came into my diner at 2 a.m., she started. She'd just finished a 12-hour nursing shift. All she wanted was a decent meal in a place where she didn't feel judged for dining alone. That night, I realized that restaurants aren't just about food, they're about dignity, community, and belonging. As she walked through her business plan, Maya could see heads nodding. When she explained how her flexible menu pricing would make quality food accessible to different income levels while maintaining profitability, Raj leaned forward with interest. "Your financial projections are conservative but realistic," Neha noted during the Q&A, "but what makes you think you can compete with established chains?" Maya pulled up a slide showing customer loyalty statistics from her diner days. "Chain restaurants sell food," she replied confidently. "We'll sell an experience. Every server will be trained to remember regulars' preferences. We'll have a community board for local events. Our staff will receive fair wages and health benefits, leading to better service and lower turnover." The presentation went longer than scheduled, with executives asking detailed questions about every aspect of her plan. By the end, Maya felt drained but proud. She had stayed true to herself while demonstrating everything she'd learned. A week later, the trainees gathered for their final evaluation and placement assignments. Maya sat nervously as Raj addressed the group. "Each of you has shown remarkable growth," he began. "Your concepts reflected creativity, business acumen, and market understanding. But one presentation stood out for its combination of innovation and practicality." Maya's heart stopped as Raj continued. "We're not just looking for managers, we're looking for leaders who can help shape the future of our company." Maya's home plate concept showed us something we didn't even realize we were missing in our portfolio. The room fell silent as Raj made his announcement. "We've decided to make home plate our next major project. Maya, we want you to be not just its manager, but its founder and partial owner. We'll provide the capital and support, but this will be your vision to bring to life." The world seemed to spin as Maya processed his words. Owner. Founder. Not just an employee, but a partner. She thought about the morning she'd spilled coffee on Raj's documents, how that moment of disaster had led to this moment of triumph. Through her tears of joy, she saw Neha smiling. "Welcome to the next chapter of your journey," she said warmly. "Hope you're ready for some real challenges now." Maya thought about Lily, about the example she was setting for her daughter. About how life's biggest opportunities often come disguised as our worst moments. About how sometimes you have to spill the coffee to find your true path. "I'm ready," she said, her voice strong and clear. "When do we start?" The next few months flew by in a whirlwind of activity as Maya's dream began taking shape. The Kumar Group had secured a perfect location for home plate, an old warehouse with high ceilings and large windows, situated right where the business district met the residential neighborhood. But turning this empty shell into her vision proved to be her biggest challenge yet. One morning, Maya stood in the dusty space, hard hat on her head, reviewing construction plans with the project team. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting long shadows across the concrete floor. She could already envision where everything would go: the comfortable booths, the welcoming counter, the open kitchen that would let customers see their food being prepared. The contractor found some issues with the building's electrical system, Neha reported, flipping through her tablet. It'll add 3 weeks to our timeline and increase the budget. Maya's heart sank, but she remembered something Raj had told her: running a restaurant is about solving problems before customers know they exist. She spent that evening revising plans and budgets at her kitchen table. Lily sat across from her, doing homework while occasionally offering suggestions. Maybe you could open the counter section first, her daughter proposed thoughtfully. Like a soft opening? My science teacher says you should test things step by step. Maya looked up from her papers, amazed at her daughter's insight. That's actually brilliant, she said, quickly making notes. A phased opening would allow them to train staff gradually and build word of mouth while completing the full renovation. The next day, she presented the revised plan to Raj and the project team. We'll start with counter service and a limited menu, then expand weekly. This allows us to control quality while managing costs. Plus, it creates buzz. People love to watch a place evolve. Raj smiled approvingly. This is why we chose you, Maya. You see opportunities where others see obstacles. As weeks passed, Maya threw herself into every aspect of the launch. She spent mornings with suppliers, afternoons overseeing construction, and evenings developing recipes and training procedures. Her years of experience now proved invaluable as she crafted systems that would make both customers and employees feel valued. The hiring process was particularly meaningful. Maya insisted on interviewing every candidate personally, looking not just for experience but for genuine warmth and dedication. When a nervous young woman named Jenna came in for a server position, Maya recognized the same look she'd once had: someone who needed a chance to prove themselves. Experience isn't everything, Maya told her during the interview. Tell me about a time you made someone's day better. Jenna's story about helping an elderly neighbor with groceries earned her a spot on the team. 2 weeks before the soft opening, Maya received an unexpected visitor at the construction site, Mr. Chen, her former boss from the diner. He stood awkwardly in the doorway, taking in the space. I heard about your new place, he said, shuffling his feet. My nephew, he didn't work out. The diner's not doing so well anymore. There was a long pause before he continued, maybe I was too quick to let you go. Maya could have felt vindicated, but instead, she felt compassion. Would you like a tour? She offered. As they walked through the space, she explained her vision for home plate. To her surprise, Mr. Chen offered valuable suggestions based on his years of experience. You should come to our opening, she said as he was leaving. Your coffee might have changed my life, but you also taught me a lot about this business. They both knew it was more than just an invitation, it was forgiveness. The night before the soft opening, Maya brought Lily to see the nearly finished restaurant. The counter gleamed under the new lighting, and the smell of fresh paint mixed with the aroma of baked goods as they tested the ovens. Can I help tomorrow? Lily asked eagerly, running her hand along the smooth counter. I can at least fill water glasses, right? Maya hugged her daughter tight. You've already helped more than you know. Every time I felt like giving up, you believed in me. But tomorrow, you need to go to school. This place will be here when you get back, I promise. Opening day arrived with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Maya had arrived at 4 a.m. to begin preparations, just like her old diner days. As she tied on her new apron, now emblazoned with home plate and owner, she thought about how far she'd come. The staff arrived early, eager and nervous. Maya gathered them for a pre-opening meeting. Remember, she told them, we're not just serving food. We're creating a place where everyone feels at home. Each customer who walks through that door is part of our story now. At exactly 7 a.m., Maya unlocked the door. She'd kept marketing minimal, wanting a soft opening to work out any kinks. But word had spread through the neighborhood, and a small crowd had gathered: office workers, local residents, and to her surprise, several of her old regular customers from the diner. The first order came from old Mr. Patterson, who'd tracked her down through the neighborhood grapevine. "Had to see what all the fuss was about," he said with a wink, ordering his usual breakfast combo, which Maya had specifically included on the menu in his honor. Throughout the morning, Maya moved between the kitchen and dining area, expediting orders, greeting customers, and supporting her staff. Every detail she'd planned, every system she'd created, was now being tested in real time. There were hiccups, of course, a forgotten order, a minor equipment issue, a moment of confusion during the rush. But Maya's years of experience helped her handle each challenge calmly, turning potential problems into opportunities to improve. By the time the lunch rush hit, word had spread through the business district. The counter seats were full, and a small line had formed. Maya watched with pride as her staff handled the volume efficiently, remembering their training and working together as a team. Late afternoon brought a surprise visit from Raj and several Kumar Group executives. They sat at the counter, ordered various items, and observed the operations. Maya continued her normal routine, trusting her staff and systems. As the day wound down, Raj called her over. "I had high hopes for this place," he said, "but you've exceeded them. This isn't just a restaurant, it's exactly what you promised, a home away from home." Maya looked around at her dream come true, the satisfied customers, the confident staff, the warm atmosphere she'd created. In just a few months, she'd gone from losing her job to owning her own restaurant. But more importantly, she'd proven to herself, and to Lily, that no dream was too big if you had the courage to pursue it. 1 year had passed since Home Plate's opening day, and the restaurant had become everything Maya had dreamed of and more. The once empty warehouse had transformed into a bustling community hub, where business executives sat alongside construction workers, where families celebrated special occasions, and where solo diners felt perfectly at home. On this particular morning, Maya stood behind the counter, watching the sunrise stream through the windows just as it had done that first day. She'd kept her habit of arriving early, though now it was by choice rather than necessity. These quiet moments before opening gave her time to reflect on how much had changed. Home Plate had not just succeeded, it had thrived. The phased opening strategy had created such buzz that by the time they opened the full dining room, they had a loyal following. Maya's innovative approach to staff welfare, including health benefits, education assistance, and profit sharing, had resulted in almost zero turnover. Her employees weren't just workers, they were partners in the restaurant's success. Jenna, that nervous young server from the first day, had blossomed into a shift supervisor. Maya smiled, remembering how she'd caught Jenna studying restaurant management books during her breaks. "You inspired me," Jenna had said when Maya asked about it. "If you could change your life, why can't I?" The kitchen doors swung open as the morning crew arrived. The head chef, who'd initially been skeptical about working for a former waitress, now consulted Maya on menu changes. They'd developed a special board that changed daily, combining comfort food with creative twists based on customer suggestions. "Mom!" Lily's voice called out as she entered through the back door. Now 13, she'd convinced Maya to let her help on weekends, bussing tables and greeting customers. Maya watched proudly as her daughter tied on her apron, remembering how this whole journey had begun with a desire to give Lily a better life. The morning unfolded with its usual rhythm, regulars trickling in for coffee and breakfast, the lunch rush of office workers, the peaceful afternoon lull. Maya had learned to step back, trusting her staff while focusing on the bigger picture. The Kumar Group had already approached her about expanding the Home Plate concept to other locations, but she was taking her time, ensuring they got everything right first. Around midday, a familiar face walked in, Raj, carrying his laptop just like that fateful morning a year ago. But this time, he wasn't a customer seeking coffee, he was here as a partner and friend. They had a standing monthly meeting to discuss the restaurant's performance and future plans. "I brought someone who wanted to see this place," Raj said, gesturing to a woman who entered behind him. Maya recognized her instantly from business magazines, one of the country's most successful restaurant entrepreneurs, known for investing in innovative concepts. Over lunch, they discussed Home Plate's unique approach to community dining. The investor was particularly interested in Maya's staff retention rates and customer loyalty programs. "You've created something special here," she observed. "It's not just about the food, it's about dignity and belonging." Maya shared stories about their regular customers, the elderly couple who came every Sunday for their date night, the young mother who'd found a supportive community during her maternity leave, the local students who used the quiet afternoon hours to study while nursing cups of coffee, just as she once had allowed them to do at the diner. As they talked, Maya noticed Mr. Chen at his usual corner table. He'd become a regular, often bringing new customers to his former employee's place, as he proudly told anyone who would listen. Their relationship had evolved into one of mutual respect, the past forgotten in favor of a shared love for the restaurant business. Later that afternoon, Maya received news that would take her journey full circle. The local business association had chosen her as their Entrepreneur of the Year. The ceremony would be held at none other than the hotel where she'd first met Raj. The irony wasn't lost on her, she would be returning as a success story, not a server. That evening, after the dinner rush, Maya gathered her staff for their daily debrief. These meetings had become more than just business discussions, they were family gatherings where everyone's voice mattered. As she listened to their ideas and concerns, she realized that her greatest achievement wasn't the restaurant's success, it was creating an environment where others could grow and thrive. Mrs. Rodriguez, who'd become their unofficial restaurant grandmother, brought in her famous flan for the staff to celebrate another successful day. As they sat around the tables, sharing dessert and stories, Maya caught sight of her reflection in the window. She barely recognized the confident business owner she'd become, yet she'd never felt more authentically herself.